All right, Steph, you ready?
You're ready.
Put that stuff down and come up here and sell me a house.
Sell your house?
Sell me a house. I'm a first time, come on up here. Okay. So I walked in the door and I'm a first time buyer. Talk to me.
You're a first time home buyer.
Yes, I am.
Did we get past the pre-approval stuff, or I'm just...
No, we haven't got past anything. I'm dumber than a
I
rock.
just met you.
I'm dumber than a rock. I know nothing about buying a house.
Well, you walked in the office, you mean that?
I said I just walked in the door right there. Right there. There it is. I walked in. I'm thinking about buying a house. That's where we start.
I'm Stephanie.
Stephanie, glad to meet you. Now, what's my name?
What's your name? I thought you were going to say your name.
My name, here. You want the key to that? You meet somebody, you shake your hand, you say, my name is. You don't say, I'm Stephanie, I'm Tom, I'm Joe, whatever. My name is. You know why you say it that way? Because the word name triggers a response. Follow? My name is. So you say, my name is Stephanie. I say, oh, I'm Tom.
My name is Stephanie.
And as I said, I'm trying to buy a house.
You're trying to buy a house?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, have you got yourself pre-approved?
Have I got myself I've been pre-approved to do a lot of things. What are you talking about?
Okay, so in order to buy a house, I need to understand what kind of number we can work with for you to buy a house. Which means you would have to speak to a mortgage rep so he can look at your credit, your income, and more or less find out how
I just want to look at a house.
Okay, well here's the thing. I can show you a house and you can fall in love with it. But without a pre-approval, you will not be able to buy a house.
Okay, that's all right. Oh, that's fine. But that's not the best way to start. Why is that not the best way to start? Yes?
You want a common ground.
Absolutely. Hey, if I don't like her professionally to start with, I ain't buying a house in here.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if you speak Spanish, you know what I mean? Steph?
No, it doesn't.
Her off. She just got.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't know. See, she started out with something that's part of the process, but it's not the beginning of the process.
Yeah.
The beginning of the process is build a little rapport. Oh, how long you been looking? Here, we'll turn it around. I'll do it. Steph, you say you're looking for a house, is that right? Yeah, you're the customer
Are you
now.
sure you start that way?
Yeah, we'll just turn it around for a second just to show you.
Okay.
You say you're thinking about buying a house, is that right?
Yeah.
When are you thinking about doing this? Soon? Soon? Have you seen any houses you liked?
No, I just started.
No, you just started. Great. Well, I'll tell you what we can do for you. I'll take you through the home buying process. We'll figure out how to buy a house, and then we'll look at some houses. We'll go from there. How's that sound to you? Is that okay?
Sounds better.
You see? Yeah, it does, doesn't it? It does, doesn't it? Because see, I didn't jump in there. I didn't jump on her and say, "Have you been pre-approved?" I've been pre-approved to a lot of things. You know, I'm 80 years old. I've been around the block, so I've been pre-approved. But you got the point I'm making. I'm not going to keep you up here and beat you up, but the point I'm making, guys, you got to have a plan. You can't. This stuff that I teach you, you got to learn it. You got to practice it. You got to practice it. Now, by practice it, hey, the way I teach people to do this is, if a customer walks in the door, I got a plan right now. If he says something about buying a house, I got a plan. And the first part of the plan is I got to build a little rapport with them just by talking. You got to get them to like you. If I walk in here, first thing I got to do is enjoy talking to Stephanie. Right? We could talk about birds and bees and anything you want to, but I got to get her to understand that I got to enjoy talking to her. Anybody that's been in any kind of business, Lewis can tell you, hey, if people don't like you, they're not going to do business with you. Right, Lewis?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So the first thing you got to do is get to like them a little bit. Okay, you can. I won't beat you up. I won't beat you.
I'll remember that.
I hope so. I hope so. All right. Last week, we're going to review some stuff from last week, and then we're going to get into something very interesting. Last week, we started talking about working with buyers a little bit. All right. Everybody got last week's handout.
Yep. Anyone missing one?
Harry, did you bring last week's handout?
Oh, this is last week? I thought this was a new one.
No, you got last week's?
Yeah.
Get it. You can't practice with it in your folder. Okay?
I can't do it if I don't know what it is first.
I know. Well, what did I tell you last week? I said everybody, what did I tell you, Steph?
Bring your handout.
Bring your hand out. That's the last thing I told you before. You can keep that for a while. That's the last thing I told you before you walked out the door. Bring your hand out, because that's where we're going to start. All right? So here's where we're going to start. Get out last week's handout. First thing we're going to do is talk about build a little rapport. Build a little rapport. We just talked about it with Stephanie. You got to get them to like you. You know, nice day outside, isn't it?
Yep.
A little cool. Nice day. That means nothing, does it? But what are we talking about? We talk about the weather, because everybody will talk about the weather, right? It's the way it works. Build a little rapport with them. I used to, and maybe I even have one here. In fact, I know I have it if I didn't drop it on the way in here somewhere. I used to spend a lot of time talking about the company and the business we do and so forth. And sometime when I met a first-time buyer particularly, I handed them something that looks like this. Y'all want to see what that looks like? Will they get to like, open that up and Paul, answer this question for me. After they read that, would they get to like me professionally? Right? Absolutely. That's nothing but a little handout about yourself. That's about me. Huh?
Who's that handsome guy?
That's 40 years ago almost. That's me. And it's all about me. And I want them to know about me. Pamela walked in the door this morning. What did we start talking about, Pamela? Come on, think. We started talking about, I asked you, what do you do?
Yeah, there you go.
Didn't you? And then what else did I ask you about? 10 years old and 3 months old.
My kids.
And we talked about that a little bit, didn't we? Now, I don't know you from gosh knows who, but I'm building a little rapport with you. 10 seconds after I met her, I started building a little rapport process with her. Don, what did I say? What did I ask you? Paul, I'm sorry. I know a guy named Don O'Neill real well. Paul, what did I say?
Ask me what I do.
Ask you what business, what business you're in, what you did, that sort of thing. These are rapport builders, and you got to learn to do that. This is a people business. That's what this is. I used to train, sometimes 90 people at a time, new people. They walk in the front door. We locked the classroom door, just to show you how we did it. We locked the classroom door. All of them came in out in the hall and stood around out there. And when we got ready to start the class, we unlocked the classroom door, and I stood by the door, shook everybody's hand, blah, 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 talked to them, and I evaluated every one of them right then. This guy's got eye contact. This guy spoke in a good voice. This guy, strong handshake, this sort of stuff, all these sort of things. And I'd look at him, I say, he looks like he might be able to make it, This one looks like she might be able to make it. What in God's world is this guy doing here? That sort of thing. But you learn you form opinions of people. You're sitting there forming an opinion of me right now. You and you particularly, because you don't know me at all. You're sitting there forming an opinion of me right now. You're saying, this guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about, or what the heck am I doing here, or something like that, right away, right? So you got to, first of all, build a little rapport. Now, what else do you have to do? This is all review from last week. What else do you have to do? How are you going to sell me a house? Stephanie came up here a while ago and she didn't have much of a plan except to talk about qualifying, which turned me off. Right? Yeah.
I'm going to ask you questions to find out what you're looking for. I'm going to ask probing questions to figure out what you're
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're going to do what we call establish a working agenda. What did I tell her when she first walked up here? I said, I'm a what?
First time buyer.
And I don't know anything. Now, my lesson to you is when you work with a first-time buyer, remember last week we said we're going to educate you in the home buying process. Remember that? You better have a plan. You better have a plan. Remember the plan? Any parts of the plan? What are we going to do? All right. You're going to educate me in the home buying process. What are you going to do?
It's right here. Explain the buyer agency to the customer.
Is that what it says? Yeah, we did. Last week we said we don't have to bother with that one though, right? But here's the plan. Here's the plan. You've got to establish a plan of how to show houses, how to make decisions, how to make choices. Home buying process is nothing more than making choices. Okay, you got up this morning. Hey, I got up this morning. I don't have to choose what to wear. That's one good thing about it, because my wife lays it all out for me. Got a little thing that's right there. What are you doing today? Oh, I'm going over to teach a little class. Okay, great. Here, it's cool outside. Wear a sweater. Okay, so forth. So I'm so spoiled, it's ridiculous. But here's the thing. It's all about making choices. Did anybody, who has sold a house to a buyer in here? 1, 2, 3, 4 of you. Did anybody buy the first house they saw? Once. You've been doing it for a while. Yeah. And once, the first house they saw, they walk in and boy, so there's no choice to make there, was it? Not really. No choice to make.
My first buyer, actually, I approached her first place, done deal.
Uh-huh. Really? Not often. That's rare. That's rare.
That was Nick. Yeah.
That's rare. So you got to explain to them the home buying process. This is what we're going to do. And it's in this handout. Most of it's in this handout. We're not going to go back over all of that stuff. But it involves primarily making choices. We used to do it this way. I'm going to ask you to make a choice. Every house we see. And one of the lines we used to use, that I used to use particularly, taught people to use, we saw house A, we saw house B. Right? These are the last 2 houses on earth. Which one you want to live in? Just pretending these are the last 2 houses on earth. Which house do you want to live in? And they said, we want to live in house A. What's my next question? Why did you choose A over B? Right? And they're not going to buy either one of them maybe, but what's the deal here? I'm making choices. I'm getting them to make choices. They got to talk to you. You got to get them to do that. They can walk around and look at house after house after house. How many of you have ridden around with a buyer and shown 20 houses? And they haven't bought any of them. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. They haven't bought any of them because one of 2 things happened. You couldn't get them to make choices, or B, you weren't listening to what they told you they wanted. Right?
No, with him, I finally figured out that he was waiting for his contract to be signed, so he started the process way too early.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of what the deal was with him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but did he buy a house?
we're working together now. He just got his contract signed. He's a professor, so he just got his contract signed.
All right, okay. Well, you explained it right. You explained it right. Is he a college professor?
Yes.
Yeah, you explained it right there.
Exactly. He's very analytical.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're going to talk about that stuff in a little bit in our next handout. Okay. We said we're going to get them to show, in showing properties, we're going to get them to make choices. Okay. Now, Stephanie came up here. The next one on the list here is a little bit about their financial qualifications. Steph came up and used a few words like, are you pre-approved, and this kind of thing. Give me a good example of something that you can use that talks about pre-approval. Can you give me a good example? You can't give me a good example? Give me a good example of something you can use to show them a little bit about what all this means.
Something we can use to show about
Yeah.
what the approval means.
Yeah.
Well, you're pulling out a credit card, so I'm assuming.
A business, go ahead.
What is this? Credit card. I don't know what the limit's, 5,000 or what it is on it. But what is that? A pre-approval is the same as if you were walking around with a credit card to buy a house. Is that correct? Absolutely, positively. I got my card here with me. Okay? So you explain pre-approval. What's the opposite of pre-approval that we talked about last week? Pre-qualified. You need to be pre-approved or pre-qualified. What does pre-qualified mean? Almost nothing. Is that correct, Lewis?
Absolutely. Very, very light.
Yep, very light, almost nothing. So you got to talk about the process. Part of the process is their ability to pay. So, use some handouts. Here's a credit card. I can buy most anything with this American Express card up to a certain amount. You know, your pre-approval means you can buy any kind of house you want to up to a certain amount. Okay? Easy enough? But you see, all I'm trying to do with this is real simple. It's real simple. I got to have a plan. I can't do anything without a plan. I was a high school football coach for 30 years. Hey, we taught kids how to blow their nose. Right? And all sorts. But I had a plan. Every day went out to practice. Half a dozen assistant coaches. Here's today's practice plan. Ba-doom, ba-doom, ba-doom. I got to have a plan. And to work this business, don't think, especially you new ones, don't think you're going to put somebody in the car and ride around, show them houses, and they're going to say, oh yeah, I'll buy this one. I have dealt with hundreds, and I mean maybe 1,000, of people who came into this business and were in a sales business before. Okay? Well, I sold candy bars. I'm going to sell real estate. No, they're not. Right, Lewis? Of course. It's a different ballgame, isn't it? It's an entirely different ballgame. What's the difference between selling any of those kind of things and selling houses?
Candy bars are delicious.
Candy bars are delicious, and I can sell a bunch of them right over the phone, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. How many candy bars am I going to buy in my lifetime? A lot. How many houses am I going to buy? Not many. Not many, absolutely. And particularly first-time home buyers. First-time home buyers have got to be educated in the home buying process. Remember, I told you that last week? I'm going to educate you in the home buying process. All right? And how does that go? I do it this way. You go through steps. You go through steps. First thing you do is try to get them to like you, and after you get them to like you, you educate them in the home buying process, and here's the home buying process. And you go through the steps. You go through the steps, okay? First thing we're going to do is find a house for you. Once we, remember that word from last week?
Yes.
How do you partner with them? We.
Not I.
Not I. Not I. Partner with we.
Together.
Put them together. Put them together. When we find a house for you, this is what we're going to do. What's the first thing they're going to have to do? Let's assume we'll go get through the pre-approval. That's already done. Let's say they got their credit card in their pocket. What's the first thing you have to do?
Make choices.
No, we already made choices. I want to buy this house.
First, show it.
Oh, no, I said we showed it. We showed it. We're pre-approved. I want to buy it, Henry.
Oh, we got it right.
Harry?
Paperwork.
Huh?
Paperwork. We got to do the paperwork.
All right, yeah.
Say offer a contract. Right?
Okay. No, you don't say contract. It scares first-time buyers. So the first thing we have to do is make an offer. The first time I met you, remember this from last week? The first time I met you, I gave you the
Paperwork.
our forms that we're going to use when we find a house to buy. Right? So how many of you have ever done that before? First time you took a buyer out, you give them a copy of the contract. But you don't call it a contract. Right? Easy enough? Easy enough? Why do you do that, do you think?
So that they're already familiar with it and comfortable.
Okay, I'm going to educate you in the home buying process. The first part of the process is make an offer. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So one of the things we're going to do is make an offer. After we write up this offer, what do I have to do? Present it. Present it. And I know a lot of times, and now I think a lot of times it's, we'll fax you the copy of it and blah, 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 blah. We never used to do that.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that last week, and you mentioned it, because when I started real estate, there was no other way but to present the offer. You would literally go to the seller's house and present your offer in front of the seller and the realtor. Mm-hmm. But nowadays, that's unheard of. And if you ask to present it, they're almost looking at you like, "What? You don't trust me?
Right?
Right. What, you think I'm not going to present your offer?"
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Mm-hmm. But I still, if I were doing this, I would prefer to do it to the seller.
You can walk out with a signed contract in the same day, which was the great thing, because when you do it over fax or email, you wait days, weeks sometimes before getting an answer.
Sure you do. And see, when you do it that way, they got to sell the contract to their sellers.
Not only that, but both parties feel like they're on the hook to make a decision that night. So you always
Sure.
walk out with a negotiated contract.
Absolutely, absolutely. So part of the process for me was, I'm going to present their offer. You know, if you got to do it the way you're saying you're doing it, that's fine. But man, I like to sit and talk to them. Did I tell you the story last week? Did I tell you the story last week about having the 2 offers on 2 different houses?
Yes.
Yeah, remember that? You think that would work, faxing it to them?
No.
No. All I had to just present one, and they said you don't have enough money, so I said I got to go present the other one. And guess what? They didn't want me going and presenting the other one. So we got that one done. But point being, you got your handout from last week?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes.
Yeah, you're paying 1,000, Tom.
Hey, we're doing good. We're doing good. No, right over there. Right over there. We're doing good. Remember I said last week I said, Lewis says you guys will leave this stuff, you forget it and you lose it and all that kind of stuff.
I'm going to check with you guys in a month.
No, they won't.
500 push-ups.
No, yeah. Run a lap. All right. So what are we going to do? We're going to write up an offer. I'm going to negotiate the offer for you. What else you got to do? Do you have to have any money?
Of course.
Of course. We got them pre-approved, but do they need another little bit of money?
Yes.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about initial deposits and additional deposits and all that stuff, right? Is that part of the process? Is that part of the education process? Yeah, absolutely, positively. Are you with us?
Yes.
Yes. Why don't you pull your chair out here? Here, this is a handout from last week that we're using. There's a chair somewhere. A chair over here. Because you can't sit down and listen to me. I mean, stand up and listen to me. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. All right, so deposits. We talk about, are we going to have to talk about mortgage apps and pre-approvals and all that sort of thing? Sure we are. Sure we are. Now, all I'm trying to do is go over a list and tell you, you got to develop a process to do this. I mean, I know people that are so smooth at this that, you know, by the time they walk out the door, they're going to buy a house. They ain't going to look at houses, they're going to buy a house. Because this guy's made them really comfortable. Make sense, Lewis? Absolutely. The more comfortable they get, the more likely they are to make decisions, make some choices, that sort of thing. But all you got to do is take all of this stuff. All right, what else? Once we find a house for you to buy, what else we got to do? Once we get the contract negotiated and we agree on the deal, what else do you have to do? Inspections, absolutely, positively. Do I know anything about inspections? No. I'm a first-time buyer. And what do you mean inspections? Is that like getting your car inspected? Is that what you're talking about? Huh? Are you another newbie? Are you another new one?
Yes, we're getting our license.
Man, I'm telling you, hey, you're going to fill this place up. You know? That's the plan. And guess what we do when we fill this one up? 2 offices. Yeah, and 3 and 4 till you get up to a couple hundred.
You'll be training every day, Tom. You'll be back to work full time.
That's all right. I don't mind. But except when Monmouth Park gets open. When Monmouth Park gets open, we'll slowly, you know.
Oh, no. We're going to have to go there.
Huh?
Work from the track.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I told you, the first year I was in the business, I made no money because I thought buyers and sellers were at the racetrack.
At the racetrack,
Yeah, they weren't there. So, where were we? Where were we? We're talking about home inspections. Home inspections. Okay. What do you mean? What do you mean, Harry? I got to get a home inspection. What's that?
We want to make sure that there's no latent defects or anything
All right.
really seriously wrong with the house.
What if it is?
Then we can ask for a credit, or we can ask for the seller to repair it.
Okay. Explain it. You see, he had a pretty good explanation, didn't he? But see, the point being, I'm going to tell you, I'll say this 50 times before the day's over. You got to get this stuff smoothed out. You got to get this stuff smoothed out. Okay, home inspections. Hey, and after we get that done and everything's done, maybe the day before the closing, what are we going to do? Walkthrough. What are you doing that for?
Make sure
John?
Rob didn't take anything.
Make sure everything's the same that it was. When you
Make sure, yeah.
first
Okay. So like I said, I'm a first-time buyer. Follow?
Rob,
Walkthrough.
didn't you do a walkthrough and they took something that was supposed to be
At
that?
my own house. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. So, if I said, You've got to learn to go through all of those steps that we just said. If I walk back in here next Monday and I said, Stephanie, come up here and sell me a house, I'll bet you, I bet you she'll be able to do it. You know why? You know why? The first time we did this, she came out of the meeting, she made a copy of what we talked about, she ran off a copy and she starts taking notes on it and starts practicing. Make sense? You can't do it without practice, people. You absolutely cannot do it without practice. There's no way. And I know some of you, there's a few successful people in here that got their own system, and they do everything that I just mentioned. And they got their own system of doing it, and they work their way right through it, and it's not that hard to do. All right? So we go from there. This was all just a review from last week. What else? You get a first-time buyer and you ride around with a first-time buyer for a while. Do you want to develop a little loyalty? All right. What did I say I'd like for you to be last week? If I'm a first-time buyer, you're an agent, and if you're going to sell me on working with you, you have to make me a what?
Partner.
Huh?
A partner.
Partner was one of them, but that ain't the big word we used.
Client.
Client, with the difference between client and customer, we know that. They're a client after they sign something. They're a customer. You put customers in your car, ride them around. You don't ride around with clients. But what was the thing I'd like to be that I mentioned last week?
In a committed relationship? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, God, no. not that committed.
Well, loyal.
Huh?
Are you talking about loyal?
Yeah, well, what did I say? I'd like to make you a... You don't remember, do you? Okay, I'll give it to you. Top priority. Remember that?
Right.
Remember that? You know, I'd like to make you a top priority buyer. What's that mean? What's that mean? What does it mean? They'd be able to explain it. If I want you to be a top priority buyer, should I be able to tell you what it is? This is what it means.
Serious buyer.
Serious? Yeah, well,
It's like a
sure.
two-way street type thing.
Huh?
It was like, I think you mentioned that it was like two-way.
Yeah, we're getting to that. We get to that. But to begin with, the top priority buyer, what am I going to do for them?
Give them time.
Here's the thing I want to do to them. The first time, when I see a house that I think you might be interested in, you're going to be the first one that I call. You will have the first opportunity to see that house. That way you won't miss a house that you possibly want to buy. How does that sound to you? Does that sound pretty good? Okay. So we got top priority, right? Now what am I asking for in return?
If you see something that they're interested in, you want them to contact you ASAP.
That's correct. So you got to put that into a dialogue. And here's how I did it. And most people I taught do it. What I really like to do is make a trade. You want to make a trade? Paul, you want to make a trade?
Sure.
Yeah, you know, they'll always say, what do you mean? They'll always say, what's the trade? Right? Want to make a trade? Yeah, okay, here's the trade. Here's the trade. If you're out riding around and you see a house that you might want to see, first thing you're going to do is call me. Buy through me. Is that a fair trade? Well, that was real simple, wasn't it? That's all I did was trying to develop a little loyalty there. How many of you have ridden around with a buyer and shown them 20 houses and you called them up and they said, we bought a house? Sure they have. From somebody else. Sure they did. We walked in an open house Sunday and bought it. Now, if you have gone through this developing loyalty thing, they're not going to walk in a house Sunday and buy it from that agent that's sitting in there. If you've done it the right way. The whole thing. We talked about all of this last week. The whole thing, okay? I am very much a feeling-oriented decision maker. I am very much concerned about what I do and how it will affect it. For example, here. Man, I'm a pro at this. I don't mind telling you. But do I come in here and waste your time? I hope not. Do you walk out of here learning something? My goal is to teach you something every week. Every time I'm in here, I want to teach you. I want you to walk out of here with something that you can use. So as it says, they're feeling-oriented decision makers. So, what kind of behavior? What are the things, where it says open behavior, these are the things you look for and what you think is an open person. All right? Firm handshake, oh man. Remember what I said the first day I met him at the classroom? This guy. Firm handshake. If I don't get a firm handshake right away, I'm starting to form an opinion. Right? Make sense? Absolutely, it makes sense. Steady eye contact. Have you ever talked to somebody that spent most of their time looking at the floor? Everybody know who Ted Turner is?
Yes.
I spent an hour with Ted Turner one time, and I swear to God, he was looking at the clouds the whole time. He was on another planet somewhere, and we were talking a business deal, trying to sell him a horse. And I finally said, hell, I'm not going to sell this guy a horse. He ain't even paying attention to me. Guess what he did? He bought the horse. But in my mind, he wasn't going to buy the horse. But he wound up doing it. Yeah. You know why he bought the horse? Because I sold him the benefits of owning that horse. It was for his kid. I never talked about the horse. I talked about your daughter will like this horse. He's a good horse. He's a safe horse, blah, blah, blah. He's one here, there, and everywhere. I sold him on the benefits of ownership. And that's another thing that we've talked about some, and we're going to talk about more. People buy the benefits of ownership. They don't necessarily buy a house. They buy the benefit of owning a house and owning where it is, what it is, how much they have to pay for it, and so forth. Okay? After steady eye contact, animated facial expressions. Oh, you ever talk to somebody and you think, where's this guy's mind? What's he doing? What's he doing?
Yeah.
Right? You can't figure them out. You can't understand them. Animated facial expressions. Do I have animated facial expressions sometimes? Absolutely. If I really feel them about something, yeah. Right? What's the next one say? Exaggerated hand and body movements. You know somebody. Do you like this? I don't like this. But I know people that talk to you and they're giving you this. Right, Paul?
Yeah.
I don't like it. You know why I don't like it? Why would you not like that?
Feels threatening.
Threatening, domineering,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. I form an opinion of them.
Like you're talking down.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's in here. That's in here further on down the line here.
What's another one?
What's that?
Hey, buddy. I'm not your buddy.
Oh, no. Hey, buddy. You know, I used to teach my football players that I was Coach Tom. And they had 2-word vocabularies for the most part. You know what? No, you know what their 2-word vocabulary was? Yes, sir, and no, sir. That's all they had to know. That's all they had to say in most cases. Yes, sir, no, sir. All right. Storytelling. Well, open behavior people are interested in. If I told you all some stories, and I just told you a story about selling Ted Turner a horse, then
Yeah, there's some people that are
yeah, I do that all the time. I cite examples or tell stories about. I mean, I could stand up here and tell you all real estate stories, football coaching stories, horse trading stories. I could keep you in here for the next month and never tell you the same story twice. But is that a good thing? No. Not necessarily, but in a way it is. Because that's one of the ways you build rapport with people. They got to like you how? Professionally. Absolutely. They got to like you professionally. So the next one says, place very little emphasis on business facts and details. Place very little emphasis on business facts and details. People that are totally open, people are totally open, trust everybody. I had a guy come and, here's a story. I had a guy come and trying to sell me redoing my driveway a couple weeks ago. We talked about everything that you could think of. Story after story. I talked to him for 45 minutes. He says, I'll come back tomorrow. I said, yeah, you got to come back and talk to my wife. He said, I'll come back tomorrow. Never saw him again. Never saw him again. All right? Sharing personal experiences. One of the things that Lewis does that I've never seen done until I walked in here was the stuff like you did last week. I've been in 500 real estate offices if I've been in one. I've been in at least 500 real estate offices. I know I have never had somebody come in here and stand up here and share personal experiences before. I love it. I don't mind telling you, I love it. First time I came in here, I said, my God, we got to teach these people how to do this stuff, and he wants to talk about what somebody did. And the longer I sat there, I said, hey, baby, I'm wrong. He's right, I'm wrong. You know?
Full circle.
Huh? Absolutely. Absolutely, he's right. I was wrong.
On his ego.
No, that's not that. It's not an ego thing. It's just works. It works.
Absolutely.
It works. That's all. Hey, if I were running a business, first thing I want to know is does it work? Right? If it don't work, if it doesn't work, we're going to get rid of it. We're going to do something else. All right, let's look at the opposite end of that on page 5 for a little bit. We're not going to go through all of this today. Okay? It says a lot of these observable behaviors are what helps determine between a 1 and a 10 on this vertical line. A lot of what, based on how high up that 1 to 10 scale they go, a lot of that's based on what you see. What's observable. The opposite of openness is self-containment. That's at the bottom of the vertical line that we're talking about here. Self-contained people don't mind being alone. You know people like that? Absolutely. I had a father-in-law that basically, he lived to be 90 couple. In the last 20 years of his life, he basically locked himself in his house. Don't mind being alone. Okay? And a lot of times they often prefer it. Hard to get those kind of people walk through the door. Easy enough. The self-contained person typically displays the following behavior. Don't show emotions. They don't show emotion. I'm not going to figure out what somebody is thinking. Harry, pretty easy. Harry shows emotion. Pretty easy, right? We can figure Harry out in a heartbeat. All right? What else? They keep their distance physically and psychologically. You don't really know how they feel. If I tried to use these closing things we were talking about a while ago, and I said, "Do you like the house?" Might not get a response. Follow? But I've already figured them out, so I kind of know how I'm going to have to do that. All right? Keep everything on a business level. They walk in here, hey, I want to buy a house. They want to keep everything on business. I'm one of those people that's at the bottom of this 1 to 10 vertical scale, and she starts talking to me about, are you pre-approved? And I'm liable to say, none of your business. All right? What else? They're task-oriented. A lot of people like that. A lot of people that are down here at the bottom of this thing, they get a job, and they're task-oriented. That's their job. I know a guy that's driven a bread truck for 50 years. He's literally driven a bread truck for 50 years. That's his job. Does he care about reacting with people, et cetera, et cetera? All he cares about is getting there and dropping that bread off. That's it. Okay? And those people are champions of time management. I guarantee you, if you bring one of those people in here who's at the bottom of this vertical line, and you show them houses they don't want to see, you're probably not going to do it but once. Don't waste their time.
Or your time.
Yeah, but hey, we're just worried about, now we're just trying to learn about them, Harry.
Okay.
Don't waste their time, okay? So self-contained behaviors. Well, obviously it's the opposite of the other one. It's the opposite of the top of the scale that we just talked about. Well, self-contained behaviors, soft handshake, the intermittent eye contact, that sort of thing, right? Not talking about it says low quantity of verbal communication means they don't talk a lot. What else? They ask questions for clarification, support, and information. They ask questions to you about everything. They can't make decisions, and they don't understand the decision-making process, and they'll ask you questions about most anything that you say to them. They speak in a low, slow voice. I used to call them the mumblers. You know, people talk to you, right? Bottom of the vertical line, boy. Absolute bottom of the vertical line. Go to page 6. We're going to do about half of this today. All right. Let's introduce the horizontal line. On page 6, it says the dimensions of direction. Domineering people who display all the behaviors described on page, this should say 7. That page number there should say 7. Will be ranked as a 10 on the horizontal line. You know what we're talking about?
Yeah, the different personalities.
Yeah, I'm a smart guy. Yeah, you're telling me.
I put you at a 1.
Well,
No, I'm kidding.
you better put me at a 10. Not really. But based on what I just said. Domineering people. Oh, how many of you have ever dealt with domineering people? Somebody that, one of these, you know. Somebody that told you, no, this is how we're going to do this. They want to buy a house from you to come here. I'm going to tell you how we're going to buy a house. All right? Follow? Domineering
Do
people.
you think you're a domineering person?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I come so close to the X on that horizontal vertical line, it's ridiculous, which we're going to get to next week. All right, cautious people who displays all the behaviors described on page 7, again that should say, would be ranked as the one on the horizontal line. Oh, cautious people, or overly cautious people. Do you know people who are overly cautious about everything? Oh, you think they're easy to sell? No way in this world.
Probably the hardest, no?
They're about the hardest. We'll get into that next week too. This is just a little intro. Let's go to one more page and talk about directness on page 7. All right. Directness refers to the amount of control a person attempts to exert over people and situations. If I'm way over here on the 10 side of this thing, I'm going to tell you how I'm going to buy a house. All right? If I'm not way over here on the 10 side of this thing back in here somewhere, I'm going to listen to you some. Okay? They're forceful. They're forceful. Anybody ever dealt with a CEO of a big company? Have you? They tell you how you're going to do things?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know why? Because that's their job. That's their job. Lewis is the head man here. Is he going to tell you how to do things? No. Up to a point. But it might get to a point where, now this is what you got to do. Right? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's the way to do it. But I had a father-in-law that was the CEO of American Smelting and Refining, which was the biggest junkyard in the world. It was in Perth Amboy. Okay? And he was the CEO there for a long time. You couldn't even talk to him without him telling you, no, that's not right. Okay, that's not right. All right? They're outspoken and domineering. They're often loud. People talk to you like this. I'll tell you what you're going to do.
Sounds like what?
Huh? But I'm serious. Domineering people get loud. And it's one of the easiest giveaways for you, for when you're dealing with those kind of people. They enjoy competition. Absolutely. Okay, so you got one of these kind of people, and they make an offer on a house. And to them, now it becomes a competition. Right? To us, it's a negotiation. To them, it's a competition. I'm going to get this house for X dollars. Right? This stuff's so simple once you learn to find these people. Okay? They thrive on accomplishments. Let me tell you what I did. Okay? They thrive on that kind of stuff. I was a football coach, coached 30 years, won 80% of the games I coached. Had 3 undefeated teams. See, I can talk about that stuff all day long. And it's bragging. It's bragging. But those kind of people like to do that sort of thing. And you got to learn to deal with them. The last half of this class deals with how to sell to the 4 different types of people that we're going to talk about. So look at the bottom. Observable. Well, what do you see? They speak loudly. We just talked about that. They use hand gestures. And a lot of the hand gestures are not good. They're these kind of things. All right? They rarely totally agree with anything. You know people like that? Absolutely. I'll bet you as we talk about these things, and I should have said this at the beginning, I bet you as we talk about these things, you can think, I know a guy like that, it's so-and-so. And you can sit here and think about it. All right? They often speak of I and rarely speak of we. So when you start that we stuff with them, they're not really interested in partnering with you with that we stuff. Okay? They're inattentive listeners. You know why they're inattentive listeners?
Because they're too worried about what they're going to say.
No, they know everything. What I need to listen to you for, I know everything. Easy enough? All right. One more. Let's look at one more page. 8. The opposite side of the scale to the far left, the illustration on page, that should say 7. Where it says the top line up there, that should say 7. Change the, like I said, this thing got run off differently. The opposite side of the scale shows the following characteristics. Okay, They're really cautious. Do you know really cautious people? Absolutely, you know really cautious people. Everybody does. Okay? They ask a lot of, people that are overly cautious about things ask a lot of what if questions.
Right.
They go to the next step. Well, what if they won't take our offer? What if? Those kind of people.
Right? At the end of the day, is what
Yeah.
caution is fear.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. They're very tentative, reserved. It's right in there. They avoid conflict in every way possible. Flight over fight. All the time. You know people like that. Okay? They'll choose flight over fight in any stressful situation. They maintain a low profile. Some people in here, I can look around, there are people that are a little bit that way. There are a couple people in here that are totally opposite of that. They're at the other end of the scale. All right? And I want to tell you, if you're at the back end of this scale, this horizontal line, if you're a 1, 2, 3 on this horizontal line, you better change. Because this business is going to eat you up. All right? So, what's observable? What can you see with these people? They speak softly, don't they? Okay? Now, when you're dealing with a couple, a lot of first-time buyers, you're dealing with a couple, and we're going to get into this maybe next week. How you deal with a couple? If you were doing this, just think a second. If you were doing this, trying to figure these people out, what's the first thing you want to find out about a couple?
Who's the decision maker?
Absolutely. Who is the domineering one? That's one of the things we're going to learn about. Who's the domineering one? As a couple, they make more eye contact with each other than with a third party. You probably know people like this. All right. And as a couple, they're often indecisive as to who will answer questions. If you said to them, would you like to buy this house? Let's just put it this way. I said to you, would you like to buy this house? And you're there with a husband, and you looked at him and he looked at you. What's the deal now? You're going to have to convince somebody. There's one of the two of them that wants the house and one of the two of them that possibly doesn't. And you got to be able to pick out which one of them is going to make the buying decision. And it's all in just a visual study, that sort of thing. They have a tendency to ask questions and more questions, okay? They prefer to hold conversation in a private setting. They don't want to stand out here and talk to you. If I brought somebody in here that's like that, we'll have a conference room in here before long. The first thing I would do was, let's go back here in the conference room and talk about it. And I would walk there, and guess what they would do? A lot of times when you want people to go someplace with you, just start walking. They'll follow you. They'll follow you. Just start walking. They'll follow you. Get out of your car out here, let's go in the office and talk about it, and just start walking toward the office. Guess what? They'll follow you. Once in a while, you'll see the parking lot escape, and you'll look around and they're gone, and you wonder where they went. But that sort of thing, okay? Okay. Between now and next week, try to learn to identify decision makers. Try to take different people that you know and do a little study. Next week we're going to pick it up, identifying behavioral styles. How to identify. So do me a favor. Come in here next week with this thing in your hand, would you? And then when I say, have you looked at this? Somebody please say yes. Okay? As opposed to this week when everybody was in another world. Evidently I didn't show up last week. I try to show up all the time. So did you learn anything?
Absolutely.
Learn anything? We doing good?
We are.
Good. As long as we're doing good, as long as we're helping you, that's all I'm here for. I'm old and retired. This is fun for me. Okay?